G'day guys, and welcome back to another episode of Red Pill Garage. Does your car have a spongy brake pedal, or does it go to the floor when braking? There's a good chance that your brake system may have a leak. Well, on today's episode, I'm going to teach you guys how to diagnose and fix it. First thing first is to perform a visual inspection. The first step of the visual inspection is to have a look under the dashboard directly above the brake pedal for any evidence or signs of a brake fluid leak in the car. And on this car, I actually checked earlier and it was fine, no leaks found. Okay, next jack the car up and place good quality jack stands under the jacking points, or check your owner's manual if you're unsure on the location of those jacking points. Our brake hose is dry. And the brake caliper seems to be dry as well, no leaks there. And the other side, that's dry. Brake hose looks okay as well. Our brake pipes running through that conduit. They look okay so far. Okay, the brake caliper seems to be dry there, and the flexible hose. And the other side, that checks out okay. And that brake caliper looks nice and dry as well. Okay, we have no external leaks, so that leaves us with an internal leak, which means the brake master cylinder is cactus. Okay, that's the brake master cylinder right there. And we're going to disconnect those two steel pipes, those brake lines that go into the master cylinder, and the two nuts that hold the brake master cylinder onto the brake booster, and that's the other nut there. And also disconnect the plug for the brake fluid level sensor. And these are the tools I'll be using today. They're just basic hand tools. And this item here is a bit of scrap wood I put together, an old curtain rod and piece of scrap wood, and I use that up against the brake pedal. If you don't have anybody else to give you a hand to bleed the brakes or the brake master cylinder, this comes in handy. You can also use a long screwdriver as well, and that section there goes up against the seat and that goes up against the brake pedal. Bit of scrap wood. And don't forget your safety glasses. Okay, next remove the engine beauty cover. Okay, next I'm going to remove the 12mm banjo bolt and the nut. And the 14mm nut. Now if that one there is really tight, don't use an open ender, you have to use a pipe spanner because you'll round that nut off and you'll stuff it. Just get your brake lines out of the way. Next, the nuts that hold the master cylinder onto the brake booster, and that should come straight out now. And you want to make sure you have your oil drip tray close by. You don't want to go dripping brake fluid all over the paintwork of the car, because the brake fluid is highly corrosive and it will chew out that paintwork. Okay, next I'm going to unscrew the screw that holds the reservoir to the brake master cylinder, and that's it there. And then next, the O-ring seal on the master cylinder itself. That's all it is. Okay, that's the new master cylinder. You want to make some comparisons, make sure it's exactly the same part. And you want to put them side by side and match them up. And all the numbers are matching as well. Then it's just a matter of putting the reservoir bottle back onto the master cylinder. And the O-ring, just make sure the O-ring's not damaged and just give it a good clean. And give the brake booster a wipe down. Any excess brake fluid around there, just wipe it down with a rag. Okay, next going to refit the brake master cylinder in reverse order of removal. Mounting nuts. The brake fluid level sensor plug. And the brake pipes. And that's the banjo bolt. And just make sure you don't lose those copper washers. And that's where the brake fluid passes through. On goes the banjo bolt. Now at this stage, don't tighten up the brake pipes because we're going to bleed that master cylinder. And what you want to do first is fill up that brake fluid reservoir bottle. And then you'll see the brake fluid start to drip out from those pipes just like that there now. Okay, next with the brake pedal tool, push the pedal all the way down to the floor. And make sure you don't accidentally lift the pedal up because it will draw air into the brake system and that's a bad thing. Okay, now that that brake pedal's down to the floor, we're going to temporarily tighten up those brake pipes. Okay, now we can safely remove that brake tool and we don't have to worry about air drawing to the system because now the brake pipes are tight. Then we can fill up the brake fluid reservoir bottle all the way to the top and start the process all over again. You want to do this a few times until you're satisfied, until there's no air left in the system so you don't see any more bubbles blowing out. You can see bubbles coming out of that. So that means we still have air in the system. Okay, now we can tighten up those brake pipes with the brake pedal still down to the floor. And once they're tight, you can release the brake pedal again. And you can see the fluid dropping down in that reservoir as the brake pedal's being released. And repeat the process again. Okay, next push the brake pedal down to the floor and hold it there. Okay, it looks like we're done now. I don't see any more air bubbles coming out of that master cylinder. And now it's just a matter of tightening up those pipes and refilling up the reservoir to the maximum level. And finish off with tightening up the pipe with a pipe spanner, because you don't want to go rounding off that nut. So you've got to use a pipe spanner. Now when bleeding brakes or flushing brake fluid on the car, you always want to start off with the furthest side away from the master cylinder. In this case, the left-hand rear. Second, the driver's side rear. Third, the left-hand front. And fourth and final, the driver's side front. That's the shortest line. So from the furthest to the shortest. And doing this method ensures us getting rid of all the air out of the system. Okay, starting with the left-hand rear, which is the furthest away from the brake master cylinder, we're going to crack that bleed nipple loose with a 10mm ring spanner. And then fit the hose on for our brake fluid catch can. And if you guys want to learn how to make a brake fluid catch can, watch episode 16 and you'd save yourself a few bucks not having to buy one. And by flushing the brake fluid and starting off with the furthest point away from the brake master cylinder, in this case here, the left-hand rear, virtually ensures us we're going to bleed all the air out of the system and there'll be no air left in the system whatsoever. Now keep this in mind, this is really important. Now when flushing brakes, only pump the brake pedal 24 times, no more than halfway travel. And the reason for this is because if you do it too many times, you'll find that you'll run out of brake fluid in the reservoir bottle and you'll have to bleed the whole system again. And if your car's fitted with ABS, you'll be in a lot of trouble because more than likely you'll have to get the car towed to a mechanic. Your mechanic's going to have to reflush the brake fluid using a scan tool, and it won't be cheap. Now I think you guys get the drift on how to bleed brakes, so I won't bother showing you how to do the other 3 brake calipers. It's exactly the same process. Just make sure you start from the longest side first and finish up with the shortest side to the brake master cylinder. Oh man, that amber fluid reminds me of something. Nice and clean, look at that. Okay, next you want to give it a quick squirt of water to break down that brake fluid. Brake fluid's actually biodegradable, so it breaks down with water. And then give it a quick blow with some compressed air. Okay, you want to give that brake pedal a quick test now. Give it a few solid pumps and hold the pressure on there for a few seconds and make sure it doesn't sink to the floor. If you've got a nice firm pedal, you know the job's done right. And then what you want to do is feel your way around those steel pipes into the master cylinder and make sure you've got no brake fluid on your fingers. So that means the pipes are nice and tight, we don't have any leaks there. You can see that nice and dry, no leaks. Okay, next I'm going to lubricate the wheel studs with a little bit of WD-40. And just make sure you don't spray anything on the face of the disc rotor, otherwise you'll have to wipe it down clean. Okay, next I'm going to refit the wheel and I'm going to torque up the wheel nuts to 108 Newton meters of torque on this particular vehicle. And you want to do it in the star pattern. Always start at the 12 o'clock position. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And just make sure when you're torquing up your wheel nuts, don't have the full weight of the car down on the ground. Tighten up the wheel nuts first, then drop the car down. And finally, refitting the engine beauty cover. And now it's time to take it for a test drive. And that, guys, is how you diagnose and replace a brake master cylinder properly. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button not to miss out on any future videos. And I'll see you on the next episode of Red Pill Garage. Thank you for watching.